They say that talking to yourself is a sign of insanity. But I think that's only if you answer back, right? Right. This is Talking to Myself, the art advice podcast where I use anecdotes from my life to try to make myself a better artist. And maybe a better person. While others might find this useful, mostly I'm just trying to avoid paying for therapy. Today on the podcast, I thought we'd talk about the death of the artist as a concept. And I don't mean the fact that I'm mortal and eventually will die. That's not exactly what I mean. It's more of a literary term, I think. If I have this right, I could be completely remembering this incorrectly, but the idea I'm talking about is the fact that once you make something and put it out there, other people's interpretation is just as legitimate as yours. So for instance, if I did a painting and I put it out there and someone said, "That's a really cute dog," and it was supposed to be, say, a chair, first of all, I'd be like, what is wrong with me? But also I'd be like, okay, they think it's a dog. They get that. That's their opinion. It's fine. Obviously I failed somewhere, but if they enjoy the dog, what's the problem? So it's a matter of letting something go completely. It's a matter of being willing to finish something for real, to walk away from it. And my anecdote for today is a little weird. I was part of a comic anthology a long time ago. It was the first comic book anthology I was ever part of. Basically, we all did a little short, I think it was 8 pages was the maximum, and I did like 6. Story around a theme. And I turned in my story, and it was the first comic thing I'd ever submitted anything to. And I'd already been accepted. It wasn't a matter of being judged or anything like that. But there were some questions as to whether what I was doing was on theme or not. And the theme was really simple. I mean, the theme was Control-Alt-Delete. They wanted you to use the concept of that, or the phrasing of that, or the actual literal term somewhere. And I was using, it was an alien story with no dialogue. It was a silent comic, basically. So I had the aliens communicated in pictograms instead of speech. So I was drawing pictograms of the buttons, Control-Alt-Delete together. And most of these people were Mac users, so they were showing Command-Alt-Delete. That's beside the point. But a few of them felt that maybe it wasn't deep enough, or maybe it didn't feel like it was, I don't know, artsy enough, or whatever. It was a bit on the nose, I admit that. But if you look past the actual use of the term as a hook in the story, it was still, I think, still fundamentally based on that. The idea is that the alien has lost an offspring somehow. We don't know how. There's some kind of tragedy, or the world is dying, basically. So he's lost his offspring as a result of the same crisis that's destroying the world, and he goes to the ancient spirits, the elders, who are like these ghosts, basically, and he begs them to reset everything. And they convince him that things are not as bad as he thinks. And there's some shots of him seeing other young aliens playing, and he comes to realize that his grief over his loss was blinding him to the fact that the world wasn't ending as much as it felt like it was. And his reset had to be something internal rather than just the entire universe being reset. It sounds really deep, but honestly it was pretty simple. It wasn't very academically or socially rigorous. The concepts are interesting, but you have to explain it to get it to come across, because it has no dialogue or anything. But so we went back and forth a couple times with my interpretation. They finally agreed to just publish it as it was, which is fine. We were all just self-publishing them in little books. Not a big deal. It's not like I was arguing with the publisher or anything. These were all friends of mine. And it ended up, I had a 2-page spread in the center of the story, and they ended up splitting it up so that the 2-page spread happens across 2 flip pages, which means instead of turning the page to a big reveal of 2 pages together, they screwed up the page count so that you turn the page, you get half of the page, the 2-page reveal, and then the other half's on the other side of the page. It was just a mistake. That's neither here nor there, but it's kind of like, if it's hard to interpret now, wait till you lose that 2-page splash where a lot of the storytelling happens. That's not really the point. The point is, I made the comic. I told the story the best way I knew how to at the time, and once I explained what it was, they got it. They understood. But when you put a piece of art out into the world, you're not going to be there to explain it most of the time. The people seeing it are just going to see it. They're either going to enjoy it and, understand it, or they're going to enjoy it and not understand it, or they're going to not enjoy it and understand it, or they're not going to enjoy it and they're not going to understand it. It's one of those 4 possibilities. 2 of them are good. They enjoy it. And 2 of them are bad. They don't enjoy it. And good and bad here being relative to you. You can't control what their reaction is going to be. You can try and be clear. You can try and relate to a common experience as much as you want. But honestly, you have to have some faith that people have the same experiences as you, and if you speak to those experiences, you'll reach them. If you plan on reaching them, which I think you should. Anyway, that's what happened. Just a little reminder for my future self. Hey, future self. I know you listen to these because now you're in the space retirement home in the future, like the Jetsons. Or maybe you're just a brain in a jar. Maybe you were always a brain in a jar. Who knows? Obviously not the brain in the jar. But the point here is, future self, don't be too hard on yourself when people don't seem to understand what you're doing right off the bat. They'll get it or they won't. You should just do the best job you can with the tools you have on hand and the skills you have now. And eventually, your skill level at communicating will match up with people's ability to interpret, and things will be fine. Thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully someone got some good out of that. Special thanks to my patrons on Patreon. You guys get to hear and see these a week ahead of everyone else, and you are the shiniest people I know. Everybody take care, do the best job you can, and if they don't understand it, then that just means you're just an amazing artist that is ahead of your time. All right, take care, and I'll see you next time.